Right now on the National Weather Desk, an ice storm pounds the Pacific Northwest, closing highways and taking down trees and power lines. And now that storm is heading east. Cold continues to grip the south, freezing pipes and making EV charges a challenge. We'll show you a dog being rescued from a frozen lake and the college students who became trapped in the snow while camping. Why tornado sirens aren't that common in some parts of the south, and a look at where 2023 stands in NASA's annual global temperature report.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. An ice storm warning remains in effect until 10 a.m. Pacific time for northern Oregon and southern Washington. It caused power outages to more than 70,000 customers and closed major roads, and that storm is now moving east. Barry Mangold leads us off this morning in Portland.
Trucks lining the side of I-84 Tuesday night after the state chose to close the highway in the blustery Columbia River Gorge ahead of another round of winter weather. Within an hour of ODOT closing this on-ramp to I-84, sleet started falling and whipping in the wind, and shortly after, freezing rain followed. And at this time, we do not know when ODOT could reopen this 47-mile stretch of highway to Hood River. Meanwhile, the cleanup is still underway from the weekend storm, which brought down hundreds of trees across the Portland metro, like this one at 116th and Gleason that landed on a house. As of Tuesday night, PBOT has closed sections of nearly 40 streets across Portland, all for downed trees, power lines, or both. Oregon's capital city also still digging out of a layer of snow and ice. Everyone from Eugene to Longview, Washington, and from the North and Central Coast Range to the Gorge will be under an ice storm threat until Wednesday morning.
I'm meteorologist Brian Vandegraff, tracking in the Pacific Northwest. Ice, snow, and just a bit of slop as this low pressure comes along the coast and then digs deep into the south, bringing some snow to the Intermountain West through Thursday, picking up some Gulf moisture somewhat, and then coming eastward and bringing some snow to the eastern half of the United States from the Mid-Atlantic to the Northeast. The big story, too, the cold will sink in. It'll pull another core of that polar air right through a good chunk of the nation's heartland and Northeast.
The South certainly doesn't need another bout with cold. Folks there are still dealing with the current Arctic blast. Many roads are still covered in ice, like here on I-65 north of Birmingham, Alabama. A hard freeze warning there expires in the morning, and then temperatures will rise into the upper 30s. Across Texas, the cold is taking its toll on everything from water pipes to first responders. Michael Atkinson continues our coverage in Austin.
It's definitely frozen.
Scenes like this,
that's on top of the expansion tank,
have been happening all over the place over the last couple of days.
At least 50 a day. I mean, Austin's a big place, and it's just insane.
Andres Flores is a plumber with Stan's Heating and Air. We went with him to go answer a call for a frozen pipe. The problem is, often when there's a frozen pipe, like at this house,
unfortunately, there's not much we can do about this one since it's frozen shut.
Is there anything you can do as it's frozen, or is this pretty much all work that you need to do ahead of time?
That's all work you need to do ahead of time.
You've probably heard that one of those things you can do ahead of time is leave your faucet dripping, but a steady drip may not be enough.
It should be the thinnest stream that you can get, because just a drip, it's not doing anything. That water's not moving. You know, a stream, that water's moving. When that water's moving, it has less of a chance of freezing.
It's cold outside, obviously, so we're having issues with things freezing up.
Equipment not the only thing at risk of freezing, as Tulsa fire crews dealt with the aftermath of this abandoned apartment fire Monday night. Tulsa Fire Captain Heath Wilcox explains the extra effort put in to keep the city's bravest warm.
We're going to rotate crews throughout the night.
It's a necessary evil that's extended to Tulsa police officers as well during this Arctic blast.
It might slow us down, but it's never going to stop us.
Officer Danny Bean says it's been business as usual for his department, even as temperatures have dipped and snow and ice have covered major roads.
And so far, so good for the Texas power grid. It's holding up to record-setting demand in the bitter cold. You may recall that was not the case 3 years ago when another deep freeze caused power outages across the state. More than 200 people died in that cold outbreak, in many homes without power. But experts say state-mandated changes since then have contributed to the grid's current success. One thing that's not working so well in the cold, EV charging stations. This was the scene outside Chicago where drivers sat in long lines waiting to charge their Teslas. Owners say the bitter cold not only extended the time it took to charge their cars, but it also made it tougher to keep the charge. Tesla offers several suggestions to fight the cold, including preconditioning the battery, keeping the car plugged in when possible, and defrosting before starting to drive. If you grew up in a cold climate, heading to the local sledding hill probably wasn't a big deal for you or your parents. But if you live in the South, where significant snowfall is rare, inexperience can quickly lead to injuries. Scott Couch has more from Nashville.
Middle Tennessee averages about 4 inches of snow a year, so when we get a good one like this, the sleds come out. It's great fun, but going downhill with no brakes can be risky. To avoid a trip to the emergency room, Dr. Harold Lovern, a professor of pediatric surgery at Vanderbilt, says keep this in mind.
Pick a sledding hill with a gentle slope, free of obstacles. We don't want a lot of trees or cliffs or stationary objects at the end of the run. Certainly, we don't want ponds and those kind of things that might contribute to hypothermia.
Beyond that, he says once your kids are at the bottom of the hill, make sure they go back up on the sides, giving the next guy in line plenty of room because there's no steering wheel. And put yourself in a position to walk away if there's a crash.
So seated upright, not more than 2 people per sled, really should just be 1. And if they have a bicycle helmet, that would be a great protective headgear to wear.
A black lab is said to be doing well after she was rescued from an icy Michigan lake. Hazel fell through a thin layer of ice on the lake near Grand Rapids. After the owner couldn't rescue her, he called for help, so the local fire department's dive team came. Using ropes and rescue suits, they went into the water and brought Hazel back to dry land. Another rescue in Kentucky also has a happy ending. 4 college students were camping in a gorge when the cold and snowy weather arrived. They called for help when they became trapped in the snow. The local county search and rescue team flew a helicopter to the scene and flew them to safety. The students were cold but not hurt. They said they never expected to see that much snow. In South Florida, some homeowners spent Tuesday assessing damage after a tornado hit Monday evening. The damage is among the worst they've seen. Alexis Cruz has their stories.
I look out the window and I go, oh my God, there's a tornado right there.
Sherry Zobek was sitting in her kitchen with her husband Monday evening when she heard him yell out something bizarre.
And he's looking out the window, and all of a sudden he goes, were those ducks falling out of the sky?
It wasn't ducks in the sky, but palm fronds caused by an EF0 tornado touching down on the interstate and traveling about 8 miles across Palm City and Stewart. The storm damaging fences and trees in its path. Some homes hit way harder than others, like Kim Uffelman's property down the road.
We've got chairs in our trees.
Kim says this is the 3rd storm to rip through her property, and by far one of the worst yet.
There's a good chance a major earthquake could strike where you live. New research from the U.S. Geological Survey says damaging quakes could strike nearly 75% of the United States. That includes the I-95 corridor in cities like Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. Meteorologist Emily Gracie has the details.
In a recent study led by the U.S. Geological Survey, it was revealed that nearly 75% of the U.S. could face damaging earthquakes. The study, involving over 50 scientists and engineers, utilized the latest National Seismic Hazard Model to create a color-coded map pinpointing earthquake-prone areas. This update, the first comprehensive assessment covering all 50 states, identified almost 500 additional faults with potential for damaging quakes, reflecting advancements in earthquake research. The model serves as a crucial tool for engineers and policymakers to mitigate the impact of earthquakes on vulnerable communities. Noteworthy changes in the model highlight increased risk along the central and northeastern Atlantic coastal corridor, as well as heightened seismic activity in California, Alaska, and Hawaii. The study also shows widespread seismic activity in 37 states over the past 200 years and addresses implications for future building and structural design. The study emphasizes that no one can predict earthquakes. However, by investigating faults in past quakes, scientists can better assess the likelihood of future earthquakes and how intense their shaking might be. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk, NASA recently released its global temperature report for 2023. We'll find out what it says and why some of the data was so shocking to scientists. Plus, tips for staying safe during a tornado.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. We have a bright sunny sky on the way to the Northeast today. It's going to be chilly though. Air temps are starting the teens. Afternoon temps will be in the 20s. A stiff northwest wind will keep wind chills in the teens. Clouds will start to increase once again on Thursday. There'll be a storm system that develops Friday. This is going to take a southern track, so it looks like a solid band of snow should get going on Friday through parts of New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and through parts of southern New England.
I'm meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. We are in for a very cold day. We start with plenty of sunshine. By the afternoon, it looks great around the region with plenty of sunshine, but still not much relief with those temperatures. A few more clouds will start to move in on Thursday, and it'll be followed by the next chance for snow across parts of the region. Today, highs will reach the teens, 20s, and 30s with even lower wind chills. Overnight, temperatures will drop to the teens and the 20s.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. A cool day today, tracking highs in the 30s for the northwestern part of our area, only creeping into the 60s for the Florida Peninsula, so it's a cool day. The good news is not any rain to affect us. We do have some of those mid-level clouds across the central to northern parts of Florida that will continue to lift to the north, but those clouds will even clear throughout the day today.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Last year's weather was wetter than normal for California, but meteorologists are concerned this year might not provide enough rain, which could mean a slide back into drought conditions. There have been a couple of storms lately, but not enough to make a difference. Sofia Lesios has more.
We finally got out of our drought last winter. We currently don't have a drought, but if we continue in this pattern, we may very well start to go back into a drought.
What Daniel Hardy, a meteorologist at the National Weather Service, is talking about is our snowpack.
We're at 40% of normal for Fresno's rainfall for the water year, and this same time last year we had 200% of normal. So it's quite a change.
In the last week, China Peak has gotten 35 to 45 inches of snow.
Enough to coat the roadway to make it real slick. Enough to where we had to implement chain control and in conjunction with Caltrans. They have a decent amount of snow up in the China Peak area, but it's not excessive.
So basically, Tahoe, Yosemite, China Peak, and those areas haven't even been hitting 50%, let alone 100% of their expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
Could this also be a concern for our water if we don't get enough precipitation this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the reservoirs and all that, it definitely would be dependent on how much snowpack we get, and if we just don't get that normal snowpack, then it's going to lead to a lower water supply for agricultural needs during the summertime.
Can we catch up? That depends.
Probably going to have to get at least one or two of those atmospheric river systems where we really get some abundant rainfall over a couple days. Really ramp up those totals to closer to normal.
1 week ago today, a severe line of storms moved through the Carolinas. At least one person was killed and 4 others were hurt as a tornado damaged several homes in a mobile home park. But at no time did sirens ever go off to warn people in the area. Michael Owen looks into why tornado sirens are not more common in the Carolinas.
Tornado sirens are expensive. Each one costs about $30,000, and that's before installation.
Plus, the sound only travels so far, and for our area, that means a lot of them would be needed.
We are roughly over 1,200 square miles. A tornado siren, really, the sound is going to be about 1 square mile. So if we're talking about how many tornado sirens we would have to put here in Horry County for the population to hear them.
The systems also have to be maintained monthly. That means more cost and regular testing, which could lead to people getting used to the sound.
That whole white noise factor, where if we're testing the outdoor siren, and there's nothing going on, my fear is that when something is going to happen and we sound the alarm, that people are going to kind of block it out.
Plus, they're only good if you're outdoors and can still be very hard to hear during a thunderstorm. There's also better options for weather alerts.
So bottom line, sirens are unreliable because it's very difficult to hear them indoors. So it's very important to make sure you have 2 ways to get warnings. You can use your weather app on your phone or a NOAA weather radio.
Myrtle Beach does think tornado sirens would be a good idea for beachgoers that don't have their cell phones with them, but they've planned ahead in case a weather emergency were to hit the beach.
We have the ability to send beach patrol or ocean rescue units out, and through their sirens they can notify any beachgoers that are out there. So that's another reason why the city of Myrtle Beach doesn't have a outdoor tornado siren.
The Carolinas are not the only region to see tornadoes recently. They've also struck in Florida, Texas, Tennessee, and Kentucky in just the last month. You know what you should do if a tornado warning is issued for where you live? Meteorologist John Gum has the answer.
Unfortunately, we've seen damaging tornadoes causing not only damage but fatalities across the nation. So now's the time to prepare. Know what you would do in the event of a tornado. You got to have a severe weather plan, an emergency plan to take action. When a tornado watch is issued, that means we're watching for the possibility of tornadoes. The conditions are favorable for tornadoes in the watch area. But when a warning is issued, well, that's when you have to take action. And you want to have that emergency kit ready to go as soon as the watch is issued. But when the warning is issued, you have to get to your safe place ASAP, as soon as possible. Make sure, if this watch is issued before you go to bed, that you have some shoes ready to go. That's something folks don't think of because these tornadoes can create debris. And you don't want to be without your shoes if a tornado should hit and you have to step through all that debris. Also, if a warning is issued, make sure you get to your safe place. Where's that going to be? Well, the lowest floor of your home or business, the best place to be. Get as low as possible. If you can put as many walls between you and the outside of the home as possible, that's your best bet. So a hallway, under a stairway, in a bathroom, especially in the interior bathroom that doesn't have windows, even a closet. Those are some of the best places to be. Of course, in many parts of the country, we have basements. And if you have a basement, that is the absolute safest place you can be in the event of a tornado. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist John Gum.
2023 was a year of extreme weather, from devastating hurricanes to widespread wildfires. NASA just released its yearly global temperature report, and meteorologist Emily Gracie spoke to a NASA scientist to find out where 2023 stands in the record books.
2023 was far and away the warmest year we've had in this record. This is a record that dates all the way back to 1880. So we've really just we're seeing temperatures rise, and 2023 was the peak of them so far. July was the warmest month that we've had in this record. And if we look at the last 10 years, so the last decade of measurements, the last 10 years have been the warmest 10 years in this record. When we think about these temperatures increasing globally, it doesn't mean everyone's going to experience a heat wave all the time. What it means is we're more likely to see greater variability in our climate system and more extreme events, or more significant extreme events.
What can you tell me about the role here of this winter in particular and El Nino in all of this?
So with an El Nino event, this is a warming of our ocean temperatures. And as we see this warming ocean temperature, we see the potential to have more moisture in the atmosphere, which can cause an increase in the storms that we see. Whereas La Nina, we have a cooler ocean temperature and can have cooler global temperatures then as well. But even though the last few years have been La Nina years, we've still seen that these have been the warmest years in our temperature record. But with El Nino now coming in, that's one of the reasons we saw 2023 was such a warm year, and we would expect that we might see warmer years in the next few years as well.
So let's talk about NASA, because you guys love to stay ahead of things and have some
always fun new projects happening. I heard there's a new satellite being launched. Can you tell me about that?
It's called PACE. It's the Plankton, Aerosol, Clouds, and Ecosystem Experiment. And what I really like about PACE is that it's looking at the exchange of carbon dioxide across the oceans and the clouds. And so we're really able to get a picture of this greenhouse gas and how it's changing our climate, both over the oceans and over land. So I'm really excited to see what we can learn from that and how we can put it into our models to help better constrain our models so that we can have better climate measurements even going forward.
Time now for a short break, but first we take in views of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Well, a very good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Cold across the Midwest again. No big change there for us. At least we're seeing sunshine across the South with a little bit of lake effect snow there across the Great Lakes. Now, tomorrow we've got our next system starting to move in across the plains. This will continue moving its way towards the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes on Friday. So this will be impacting Thursday and Friday for portions of the plains and the Ohio Valley. So be aware, roads will be a little slippery.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. It's a cold morning all across the region. We're into the 30s and 20s and teens, even single digits all the way back over into Little Rock. High pressure begins to pull away. That means moisture moves back in. That means a slightly warmer day as we watch another system move in. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia, and that's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Wednesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Desert Southwest looking nice and mild compared to everybody else. Back to about 70 today in the Valley of the Sun, 60 out of LA, but the PNW, big storm pushing through, areas of freezing rain and heavy snow, especially into Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. That heavy snow pushing all the way through Montana as the day goes on. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
In Central Texas, trees are at risk. Between recent winter storms and the past year's drought, trees that survived are showing stress. Betty Cross looks at what local officials are doing to make sure the trees survive this winter season.
The forecast is not calling for a repeat of last winter's ice storm. But even though meteorologists aren't expecting this, already stressed trees could still suffer some freeze damage.
That's when temperatures get so low for a sustained period of time that the vascular system in the tree, which is the outer inch ring around the tree, it'll freeze and the cell walls will burst, just kind of like the water pipes in people's houses.
William Johnston is a certified arborist with Davey Tree. He says consistent pruning and fertilizing of trees is the best way to help them through winter storms.
If your trees are small enough, wrap them up, water them really well.
A thorough watering a day or two before temperatures drop can make a big difference in how well your trees deal with a short freeze.
It seems counterintuitive, but what we're trying to do is just keep those freezing temperatures in the air and out of the soil, out of the roots, and as far away from the vascular system of the tree as we can.
We'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. Thank you for joining us. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. Make it a great Wednesday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.